the shop of a Singapore animal dealer. These animals were filmed quickly and secretly on their illicit journey from the jungles of Asia to the cities of Europe, Japan, and the United States. They are part of a worldwide multi-million-dollar business. This is an important meeting. These delegates represent countries which have signed a new treaty, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. The objective, to control the trade in wild animals and plants before they disappear. This is the convention's first major working session.
I think we have a duty to see to it that this animal, at least this convention, is protected. And its only way we can protect is to put in Appendix 1.
Appendix 1, the strong arm of the convention. A species is considered to be on the edge of extinction. Virtually no trade is allowed. By the end of this meeting, Appendix 1 numbered 388 species of animals and 45 plants.
Data to support their being, those taxa being there.
The convention is young. Only about a quarter of the world's animal trading nations have signed the treaty. John Burton, representative of the International Independent Organization which monitors this treaty, sees time running out.
Well, the amount of time left for a lot of wildlife is very, very short. I mean, unquestionably, some of the animals are very, very endangered. At the conference today, we've heard some animals discussed, which, quite honestly, I hold out very little hope.
The tiger. There are about 4,000 left alive. And in this one shop in Singapore, there are 18 more. You are looking at some of the last tigers on Earth.
I think one should remember always that places like Western Europe and the United States have done exactly what we're trying to convince the rest of the world they shouldn't do. I mean, Britain was, my country, Britain was full of large animals. We had lynx, bear, wolf, boar, and a whole list of others. We've exterminated them completely.
In the United States, the plains were once dominated by the buffalo. By the end of the 19th century, there were about 300 left in North America out of an estimated 60 million. Teddy Roosevelt, who saw himself both as a hunter and a conservationist, explained why.
It must be remembered that the buffalo's continued existence in any numbers was absolutely incompatible with anything but a very sparse settlement of the country, and that its destruction was the condition precedent upon the advance of white civilization in the West.
$40,000 buffalo skins from 40,000 animals. Wildlife became a business. The wilderness and its treasures have always been sought after. The exotic and bizarre crossed the world's oceans to become zoo collections or circuses. Magnificent feathered hats adorn so many heads over the past century. that 61 species of birds were threatened with extinction.
Fur was in fashion, and someone had the jolly idea of parading the newest modes at the Central Park Zoo in New York City, maybe to double-check on the furrier by comparison with the real thing. What the animals thought of seeing their long-lost cousins strutting by, they kept to themselves. Fur coats in midsummer didn't strike anyone as odd. Brer Fox sports his classy pelt.
The business of extinction began many years ago, and its pace has not slowed down. Dr. Wayne King, an American representative at the Bern meeting and a conservation director of the New York Zoological Society, is an expert on the world animal trade.
It's much larger today than it ever was because our population is larger worldwide. And we have better transportation systems for transporting animals, meat, furs, hides, live animals.
One example, reptile skins from India. In 1974, 737,000 went to Western Europe. The skins are made into everything from crocodile handbags to cobra skin shoes. 220,000 went to Japan. Another 100,000 to the United States. The world total, 2 million skins, one item, from one country for 1 year. But there are 155 countries, 7,000 species, countless trade routes. Elephants became billiard balls and ivory piano keys. Wild birds became household pets. Leopards became coats. Butterflies became collector's prizes. The horn of the rhinoceros, a Chinese aphrodisiac.
Animal populations are being impacted by human activity more and more and more. We're converting more grasslands to farms. We're cutting down more forests, especially tropical rainforest, for timber, to make plywood for temperate zone countries. And in addition, we are capturing various animals for their hides, for their feathers, for their furs, and for the pet trade, for the live animal trade.
Much of the animal trade starts here in the tropical rainforests. They contain perhaps 4 out of 5 species of the wildlife left in the world today. 1 handbag per crocodile, $500 each. Rare butterflies, $1,000 apiece. A seaman, $200 on the illegal market. An orangutan, up to $10,000 or more when you can get them. The slow loris, only $20. Flying squirrel, still abundant, maybe $50. Now the trees are in demand as well, for lumber, fiberboard, and plywood. Modern machinery can clear 1 acre of tropical forest in just 1 hour. But that acre may contain more than 100 different species of large trees or 400 types of birds. It is mainly the developed world which creates the demand for products of the forest. Los Angeles is the home of one of America's current fancies, Fred the cockatoo. He is the loyal and clever companion of Beretta, a television detective hero seen weekly by 42 million viewers. 400 cockatoos are delivered to this Los Angeles import firm every 2 months to become devoted companions for Beretta's fans. Before television elevated this bird's status, it cost about $100 to buy. Now customers are willing to pay up to $1,500. In Singapore, at the import company's holding station, more cockatoos are waiting. The birds come from the surrounding jungle areas of Southeast Asia. They're brought to Singapore a few at a time. When there are several hundred, they travel to Los Angeles. Shortly after these scenes were filmed, the birds were shipped to Los Angeles, where they were seized by U.S. Customs. The importers of the birds did not have sufficient documents to show that they had been legally obtained. Regulation is extremely difficult. The cockatoo, for example, is found in both Indonesia and Australia, but can only be legally imported from Indonesia. So a cockatoo bought in Los Angeles might be legal, or it might not. But this crown pigeon, filmed in Singapore, is different.
The crown pigeons are a group of 3 species of very, very large birds. I mean, they're sort of chicken-sized pigeons, very, very pretty, with great lacy crests on them, pale blue with maroon patches on the wings. These 3 species only occur on the island of New Guinea. They occur nowhere else, and yet these appear regularly on the markets, and they appear, most zoos seem to have them, and yet hardly any are bred in captivity.
The same is true for these palm cockatoos from Indonesia, where they're totally protected. Yet there are at least 16 at the Singapore dealers, along with a half dozen other protected species. In Los Angeles, a dealer is offering a highly prized vulturine parrot from New Guinea or Indonesia and a pair of almost unobtainable Rothschild miners. How are these birds obtained? Take Australia.
Australia, of course, has a large number of parrots which are only found in Australia. Some of them are bred in captivity, but we do know there's still a substantial trade in Australian parrots being smuggled out.
Australian birds and snakes can be bought all over Europe, the United States, and Asia. But the country has strict laws which prohibit wildlife export. The long coastline is a smuggler's paradise. Small boats take animals to the free port of Singapore, and from there, either forged papers of origin will be used, or documents will not be necessary. This yacht was recently seized by Australian Customs. The occupants, it was reported, were transporting 800 parrots to New Zealand, sometimes used instead of Singapore as the first staging post to the world markets. When the boat was boarded, the birds were dumped overboard, leaving only some bird seed as evidence. As this film was completed, the case had not yet come to trial. Housed in an exclusive suburb of Sydney, this is possibly the most valuable bird collection in the South Pacific. It belongs to Joe Mattinson, a contact given to Nova unofficially by an Australian agent.
In this battery of Avery's here, there's 15 cages.
Locally, his Australian birds would be worth no more than $1,000. But sold abroad, illegally, their value would be quite different.
Well, overseas value, I have 10 pairs of browns at, say, $6,000 a pair. There's 60,000. The 15 or 20 pair of golden shoulders at another 6,000 or 8,000. You multiply that, 8's 160. The smutties are worth, the Tom Curries are worth another 6,000 or 8,000. I have 5 pairs of those. So how much is that, 200,000?
Despite Joe Mattinson's ability to assess the overseas value of his birds, he claims never to sell them directly to collectors abroad.
I couldn't afford to sell them directly to them. I'd rather sell them to a dealer and let him sell them to them. I don't become involved.
But when asked what he thought the animal dealers did with them,
your guess is as good as mine. I suppose they're going to take them out. They're not going to eat them.
Perhaps Mattinson's most valuable bird is the golden-shouldered parakeet, worth about $10,000 a pair on the world market.
The golden shoulder has a little yellow frontal band there, a black cap that goes over his head, and the gold on his wing is a lot more golder than the hooded, which is virtually yellow. And he also has a rather pretty vent, which is red.
Not in the same price bracket, this bird, a lorikeet, is also popular abroad. A pair of lorikeets is worth about $100 outside Australia.
What we have here is a little terrified lorikeet. It's bitten us numerous times, and we're going to try to get her to walk into a bag on her own.
This young American agreed to demonstrate methods he has used to smuggle birds and snakes on condition that he remain anonymous.
Hands here are very useful. I find the best way to transport birds is sideways. This gives the advantage that the bird can either stand up or lie on its back, whichever it finds more comfortable. Using common safety pins to attach the bag to the coat. This allows you to take the animal out during the flight and give it water and food, just check on its progress generally. I carried snakes this way from Upper Volta to Niger, and from Niger to Ghana, as well as from Algeria to Mali. Now, this has a lot of benefits, and the primary benefit being that unless you go for a body search, your animals won't be found. You'll get through customs.
In a park near Sydney, the smuggler, we'll call him Bob, described how the animal trade has often functioned on the fringe of the law.
Originally, I started off doing it sort of legally. At least the animals were going into the United States from other countries. Whether it was legal to take them out of those countries or not depended on the country of origin, but generally speaking, they were legally entered into the United States.
And that has been a major problem in controlling the animal trade. It is the key objective of this convention to achieve agreement between all exporting and importing countries on which animals should be protected. In spite of Bob the smuggler's impression, the United States has always had a law preventing indiscriminate import of animals, but only recently has it been vigorously applied. So far, less than a fourth of the world's nations have ratified the convention, but at least the potential is there.
This convention is the first international agreement where nations have gotten together and agreed to cooperate in order to eliminate the market for illegal goods, illegal wildlife goods.
This isn't really going to stop the trade, but rather, stimulate it in some respects, because it's going to drive the prices for animals higher and make it more worthwhile to take the risk. The penalties aren't that great that people aren't really worried about going to jail, and they're just bringing the prices of animal smugglers up into the prices of dope smugglers, with a much lesser penalty. So why not do it? You can get $10,000, $20,000. If you have a boat, you might even get $100,000 for making a good run. It'll attract a lot of people to that.
With profits like this, who is involved?
Mostly they're fellas looking for a quick quid, gamblers, I said, and they've been caught for all sorts of rackets, pickpockets, prostitution, all these sort of things.
But isn't it right that more sophisticated criminals are involved?
I think everybody knows, I know, but how am I to say whether it's right or wrong? If I go and say this is right, I might get my throat cut because it might be wrong. I'm just my own little self, and I live here, and this is what I want to stop.
Petty criminals, organized crime, even animal lovers.
I know 6 or 7 people who make their major sources of income from smuggling animals. But most of them are collectors of animals themselves, and the funds go to supporting their own collections. Only the primary people who do it are people who love animals, and they do it because they love animals. And they don't really feel that breaking the law is very serious, insofar as that the animals in the country of origins are often shot unnecessarily or used like kangaroos are as dog food. So what's the harm in taking an animal out and selling it to a man for a lot of money? If he's going to pay a lot of money, he's going to take really good care of the animals. If you pay $1,500 for something, you're going to throw it away? No, you're going to take really good care of it. Good girl. Good girl. That's all right. That's all right. It's all right. I shan't hurt you. It's essential in doing this that you bind the bird's feathers and beak. Hello, Woo. Come here. Come here. Stop that. Stop that. unbinding the bird's wings to make sure that the feathers don't get hurt in flight. That'll destroy the value of the bird on its arrival. Now, we'll just fit the bird in the cage as such. Okay.
Bob is an animal lover, but he is also a businessman. How does he sell his goods?
You might perhaps try to obliquely contact a zoo. You can sell them to a private dealer in the United States. You can advertise directly in a newspaper. You know, that's perhaps the easiest way, and also a good way to get the top price. This is how we're going to transport them.
Hundreds of thousands of animals have made journeys like this. Australian customs keep a unique collection of confiscated smuggling devices. A woman's suitcase contained 30 birds. A common item of hand luggage. Parakeets have been found in a tape recorder. But this hiding place is more common. This coat belonged to a Singapore businessman named Christopher Wee. He was caught with 400 small birds hidden in these hair curlers. And this is Christopher Wee. Undeterred by a small Australian fine, he's checking over the stocks of one of his collectors in southern Thailand. It's the rainy season, so mainly snakes are available. But there will be thousands of customers, even for deadly poisonous ones, like this taipan. Once the collector was bitten by one and had to chop off his own finger to survive. The taipan is so aggressive, it may even kill other snakes it's caged with. Yet a private buyer will pay a great deal of money to own one. The collector lives on the edge of a town surrounded by hundreds of miles of jungle. It is called Tong Song, and animals abound in the forests. This section of Asia has about 1/3 of all the tropical rainforests left in the world. They've always provided food for the people who live in them, and they also provide money. Part of Southeast Asia is called the Golden Triangle because it is one of the richest centers of the opium trade. But an even larger triangle shows the area for animal trafficking. It encompasses 6 countries whose political boundaries are meaningless to the animal trade. Smuggling across borders is frequent and widespread, with traffic arriving ultimately at the export centers of Bangkok and Singapore. The trade begins here in the jungle with the local collector. It is one of his few ways of making money. His catch, this time, is a python. Here in Thailand, there are laws protecting some of the wildlife, but penalties are not large, and collectors can make enough money to pay off occasional fines. From collector to first middleman, the process takes place in jungle towns all over the world. Collectors everywhere are paid for pythons according to length. The middleman sends out consignments to several big animal brokers like Christopher Wee every week. The boxes are for poisonous snakes. The others can travel in sacks. A green water snake watches as Christopher Wee conducts his final negotiations. The profits get larger each step along the way. The jungle collector received a few Thai baht, about 50 cents. The middleman, perhaps $50 for a shipment. With Christopher Wee, the price will certainly take another huge leap, but he would not give any figures. As he described to Nova, Christopher Wee's method of exporting a typical shipment is to act only as a broker. Other businessmen arrange for a truck to carry the animals close to the Thailand-Malaysia border. the border guards are paid off, and a boat takes the consignment around to Penang in Malaysia. A second truck goes to Kuala Lumpur or to Singapore, staging post to the consumer markets of Hong Kong, Japan, the United States, Europe, and Australia to the south. Some animals and reptiles remain in Singapore. This street market sells freshly slaughtered wildlife to the Chinese, who believe it has medicinal and health-giving properties. Probably 1 million or more birds, reptiles, and mammals are consumed every year in Hong Kong and Singapore alone. Some animals are so popular that all parts must be reserved in advance. It may be necessary to wait weeks for a favorite delicacy. Animals are becoming scarce. Another local consumer of animal products is the Chinese medicine store. They do a brisk business. Gallbladders of Malayan sun bear for liver problems. Tiger bone boiled for rheumatism and epilepsy. Burned elephant skin for skin ulcers. Antelope horn for meningitis and pneumonia. Deer antlers, while still fleshy and in velvet, are good for virility, especially in older men. But the most precious of all is the rhinoceros horn, the strongest aphrodisiac. Now entirely protected, the rhinoceros has been exterminated in much of its range, both in Asia and in Africa. The smaller horns, which belong to the Java rhinoceros, are among the most valued. An ounce of powder from one of these cost $500, more than 3 times the price of gold. There's a long history of the use of wildlife in medicine and food in Asia. Since the port was founded, animals have always been a part of Singapore's trade. But there's a difference between then and now. The magnitude of commerce has grown enormously. Natural resources such as timber and wild animals are more accessible than ever before. And Singapore continues to expand as trade continues to grow. The leather factory located in this building is one of many in Singapore. Worldwide, so many crocodile skins have been made into handbags that 16 species are in danger of extinction. The arcades contain many shops where live animals are sold. These animals, filmed secretly in the shop of one of Singapore's major dealers, are protected in their countries of origin. But huge numbers make their way here anyway. It's a hidden business, and for the animals, a brutal one. These animals were filmed by a former smuggler. They have just come from the jungles of Thailand and Laos and are on their way to unknown destinations. The man who shot this film is French. His name is Jean-Yves Domelin. He explains why he got out of the animal business.
Yeah, when I visit the animals, even in the States or in Europe, most of them were dead. So it's quite disgusting, you know. You catch an animal, he's free, put him in a small box, you ship him to the zoo, and after a while, after a short time, you're just dead. So you catch him for nothing, just to make money. So it's quite a dirty job.
Mr. Swart is the owner of the animal compound where Jean-Yves Domelin filmed. From his Buddha-lined office, he deals in exotic pets, monkeys for medical research, animals for zoos.
Well, actually, I'm an animal lover, and I've studied science. I've got a degree in science, and I've always loved animals.
Mr. Sowat is one of the biggest. He's mostly interested in rare animals, very expensive price. In 1 month, he sold about 23,000 animals, including birds and small lizards, but 23,000. Animal business is only profit, You don't care what is living in a box, living or dying in a box. Just you ship it. You don't care if it's alive or sick, and you get money.
The shipping forms tell the story. Belgium, Hong Kong, Japan, the Paris Zoo. For every animal that reaches its destination, maybe 10 others will die. Jean-Yves Domelin now lives in the French countryside near Paris.
It's more profit in doing animal business than doing opium business. With opium, you have risk, You have to buy quite expensive price. You must have some friends everywhere, in police. You have to pay everybody, For animal business, you just take animal and ship it.
Christopher Wee used to ship his animals around the world from this compound on the outskirts of Singapore. The government closed it down and took away his license when he came under suspicion for smuggling. But for him, the rewards of animal trade are irresistible. Now he's back in business. He has a new office in the middle of the city. He is still a broker for animals. If the profit in the live animal business is big, the profit to be made from the commerce in wild animal products is bigger. This scene is repeated daily throughout Singapore. Many of the products to be found here are listed under the convention. The tiger, the hawk-billed turtle. How long before today's common animals are in danger? Scaly anteaters are officially threatened. All crocodiles are protected. A stuffed bird of paradise, so rare, it is the only bird Singapore forbids trade in. Leopard skin, a totally forbidden product. An ostrich skin handbag, the selling point that it is a rare and protected animal. This store and stores throughout the world sell endangered wildlife products. But there have to be buyers. Internationally recognized credit cards imply a stamp of approval. The Ghanaian representative to the Bern meeting of the convention, Mr. Pungizi, is emphatic about the international responsibilities in the animal trade.
Trade in wildlife is not a local problem, it's international. You will need not only the country from which the animal comes to pass legislation to protect it. You also need international concern. In other words, the countries to which the animal is taken to, the importing countries.
So it is the importing countries which determine how much a foot of python is worth in the jungle. It is already a commodity. In Singapore, the jungle python has become one of many snake skins. Here, the skins are gathered from all over Southeast Asia. Some are smuggled out of their country of origin. Some are protected by the convention. But they are only a small fraction of the skins which are heading towards the same destination from all over the world. The dealer in Singapore sends many of his skins to a firm in Holland. Holland has not yet signed the convention, and so the company is able to receive goods which are now illegal in those countries which have signed. Small bales like these indicate that the skins were packed to be loaded on the heads of smugglers who move through the jungle borders by foot. But they pass through customs here with only a stamp. No law requires that the bales be searched. What is being done is not illegal in Holland.
Goeiedag. Goedenavond, Philippus. 2 balken voor u.
These skins will continue on to tanners and purse manufacturers in other countries. They are only checked and graded here.
You can smell if it are fresh skins or not. If there's one rotten in it, you can smell it. Now I'm looking for scars and holes to get the right qualification of the skin. If there are any rotten places in it or so. And later on we measure the skin in length and width.
One of the tanneries they are sent to is in England. The company asked not to be named. Here the animal trade has become just another industry. It is this type of international trade that the convention is designed to prevent. In Singapore, where the snake skins were first gathered, Mr. Chan Chin Chun, the dealer, feels that the convention may have a disastrous effect on his business.
Well, if this loss continues, and I'll have to close down. I can't trade anymore. I've lost quite a few buyers because of this law, especially from those countries that are members of this convention.
And in Holland, at the trans-shipping firm, Mr. Grunweg describes his ambivalent attitude toward the convention.
When I go on holidays, I always go into the bush to see some animals, just as they live when they're free. And I think I agree with the Washington Convention. That's my private idea. But on the other hand, it's a very sad story. If you have a business, I'm over 20 years in it, over 25 years in it. And you see it going down and down and sitting here weeks, doing no business at all.
There's still a lot of snakes there. They multiply like flies. If you do not kill them, it will be the human population who will be endangered and not the snakes. Those that are really endangered, like, for instance, the bird of paradise, monkey-eating eagle of Philippines, they should be well protected.
It's often difficult to determine what species are really endangered, but it's basic to knowing what to protect. The convention relies heavily on population studies done by scientists throughout the world. 2 scientists from the University of Cambridge in England are cooperating with the Uganda National Park Authority to find out what the elephant population is. Robert Malpass flies 2 strings from the plane and counts all of the elephants he sees within its boundaries. This is done for about 15% of the area, and estimates are then made for the entire park. In 2 years, numbers have gone from 10,000 to 1,000. The figures for elephant population of Uganda are grim, but more studies are needed to measure the general elephant population of East Africa. Dr. Eltringham and Robert Malpass will do this study yearly. It is information from studies like this that determine which species of animals will be protected under the convention. But to what extent it will be possible to supply future Bern conferences with adequate studies of the thousands of animal species in the world remains an open question. In 1976 in Bern, the status of the rhinoceros was discussed.
It was a very small population.
I think it would be ridiculous to make any exceptions. The rhinos totally have to be in appendix number 1.
There is, however, another proposal from the United States.
The United States put forward a proposal to keep the rhinoceros off of Appendix 1 until a more thorough investigation was made of its status. Behind this request was pressure from a hunting lobby, the African Safari Club, with 400,000 members. Dr. Randall Eaton, a zoologist representing the Safari Club, left the conference in disgust.
American hunters and a few European hunters will go to South Africa or Rhodesia, pay $2,000 to shoot one. Now, because they'll pay that money, those ranchers obviously are interested in having white rhinos on their property, where white rhinos used to live, but have since been eradicated. So, what are we talking about? We're saying that these hunters and their interest in shooting this particular animal is a positive conservation force. And
the Safari Club presented a well-reasoned argument. Some populations of rhino might well be large enough to withstand hunting. The convention debated whether or not the available information on rhino numbers pointed toward full protection, inclusion in Appendix 1. Wherever the future population studies are less than perfect, such debates are bound to occur.
I and the African participants over here who come from areas where rhinoceroses do occur or did occur before maintain that there is enough evidence to put rhinoceroses in Appendix 1.
It's safer to put it on Appendix 1. It isn't going to harm anybody as far as we can.
The hunting lobby lost its case, but a much more powerful interest group to contend with will be the zoos. Millions visit them. They are most people's only contact with wild animals. But how do the animals reach the zoos? As this film was made, Nova learned that several United States zoo curators are under investigation for acquiring possibly smuggled animals.
All of the zoos, even national zoos like French Zoo, Vincennes, they know exactly it was forbidden animal. They know I was a poacher, but they don't care. They are just interested by rare animal in a cage. It's enough.
On the Isle of Jersey, Gerald Durrell, author and naturalist, has established his own zoo. His past experience as an animal collector has convinced him that zoos play a strong role in maintaining animal dealers.
I think the zoos are very largely to blame for this, you see, because they've used the animal dealer and kept him in business. Whereas if the zoos had got together and employed a respectable person to go and collect their animals for them, they would have eliminated all the charlatans.
Gerald Durrell's zoo is not typical. He collects most of the animals himself and concentrates almost entirely on the breeding of endangered species. The zoo is really more of a reserve for endangered wildlife, a stationary ark, as Durrell calls it. These are the rare barefaced ibis from North Africa. They have bred successfully, as have the Chinese white-eared pheasants and the Rothschild minus. These two orangutans were saved after an animal dealer abandoned them. They have so far produced 4 offspring.
What we are doing actually is something unique. It's never been tried before on the basis that we're doing it. And it may work or it may not work. I mean, it's too early to tell, and we're learning new techniques the whole time. But what we're achieving is that we are preserving these creatures, and hopefully mankind will start behaving more sensibly with the natural world than he is at the moment. The objective is to take into captivity certain species which are threatened in the wild state when their numbers drop down to, say, perhaps 200 or something like that. Then they need a captive breeding program if they're going to survive at all.
After successfully breeding his animals, Gerald Durrell hopes to return the animals to their wild habitat. Will this be possible?
A 15th or 16th generation zoo-bred animal has got to undergo training before it can be released in the wild, in order to re-establish them as wild animals, because they'll have been cosseted by then, and they'll have lost some of their instincts. I was talking to somebody the other day about this very problem, and he said, but surely the basis of this is there going to be a there to put them back in?
Norman Myers, consultant for the Washington-based Natural Resources Defense Council, is surveying the remaining rainforests of the world. This pasture land in Costa Rica was until recently part of a tropical forest.
Tropical forests are disappearing in some parts of the world so fast that some ecologists would say we shall have very little left by the end of the century except in severely degraded form. Now, who's causing this destruction? In part, it's citizens in the countries concerned, slash and burn cultivators, but also, and increasingly, there are 2 other important players who come from the developed world. One is the multinational corporation that goes to these forests and exploits them for their lumber in order that the developed world have more paper, more pulp, particle board, building materials, what have you. There's another form of impulse from the developed world which is expressed in a different way. Organizations are exploiting these forests not for the timber in them, but for the lands which they represent.
And the land is often used to raise cattle. This Costa Rican firm is part of a rapidly growing business in Central America. Production of beef cattle primarily for North American fast food chains, supermarkets, and public institutions. Grazing land in Costa Rica has doubled since 1963. In the Oriente, a region of the Amazon jungle in Ecuador, oil development has moved into the rainforest. Settlers and traders have come to stay. This woman buys bird feathers and animal skins from the Indians who've always lived here. But she says that now both feathers and skins are becoming hard to find.
Ya está bien retirado de aquí, ya no se encuentra nomás. Más antes sí había bastante, lo que ahora está bien escaso. No se halla ya. Toca ir 2 días de monte adentro para ver de encontrar. Sí, ya no hay.
¿Y los cojones utilizan esos lanzas?
The tropical forest can be turned into cash, but not forever.
Developing countries earn a great deal of money when they exploit their forests for lumber and paper products. Indonesia, for example, which has a large tract of forest, earns 1/4 of its national income each year through exploiting its national forest. They're not going to give up that just in order to help the rest of humanity or safeguard the interests of future generations. They will say, what about our own Indonesian citizens right now? To ask them to give up that would be rather like asking the United States to close down General Motors for good and all.
Once you chop down a rainforest, you simply can't replace it under 5,000 years. I think it's one of those things. We live in a very complex biological web, which we're by and large totally ignorant about. We're still learning, and there are vast areas which we know absolutely nothing about. If you destroy, we know on broad principles. For example, if you destroy a rainforest, you alter climate, but we're not taking any notice. We're just going ahead as though there were no laws governing nature at all. And we've stepped outside. We've become God now. We've stepped outside nature instead of living within the framework which we should do.
Rainforests at present occupy 1/10 of the Earth's land area. At current rates of consumption, they will be gone by the end of the century. This is what happens after the forest is destroyed. When the trees are uprooted, the shallow soil erodes. The dirt beneath becomes hard and barren. Plantations can be created and farmland is possible, although its quality may not last. But the riches of the tropical forest, which contains 1/2 of the Earth's bird species and 3/4 of the tree species, will have gone.
If we foul up a river or if we use the sky as a garbage can and then we want to clean it up, we can generally do a pretty good job of doing that. We can reverse the process. But if we allow a species to go extinct, that's it, period.
This is a national park in East Africa. Just 3% of the world's rainforest and savanna land is now protected in this way.
I think all that's going to be left in another 100 years are going to be national parks, which really are nothing more nor less than glorified zoos. And they've got to be run, in fact, very much as a zoo is run, because it's an unnatural unit that you've created in the same way that a zoo is an unnatural unit. People say they're going to Serengeti to look at wild animals. Well, I mean, the whole thing is unnatural to begin with because, I mean, a wild animal doesn't have 69 Land Rovers around it. So they've really got to be managed and almost farmed, you know, like a big country estate is farmed in England if it has deer or whatever on it.
There are 1,400 parks in 100 countries. Are they to become the last defense against extinction for the world's wildlife?
If you exterminate animals at the rate we're going and exterminate the habitat that goes with them, you're killing yourself. You're literally, I mean, you might just as well get into a warm bath and open up a fat vein.
There's no place for animals, you know. You have to choose men or animals. And which government is going to choose for animals, you know, it's difficult.
You see, conservationists, by and large, have no money. And so the whole conservation bandwagon is a fairly slow process, whereas the way we're devouring the world is so rapid and so intense that the problem is whether the conservationists can catch up with the ferocity and speed of the destruction.
think people are so interested in animals?
Oh, well, you know, you open up a National Geographic and you go looking through it, and, you know, there it is. It's a ring-tailed lemur. It's a koala bear. You know, it could be anything, you know, and you just go, oh, I gotta have one, you know?
This program was produced by WGBH Boston, which is solely responsible for its content. Major funding for this program was provided by public television stations. Additional support was provided by unrestricted general program grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the Ford Foundation, and by grants from Exxon Corporation and the National Science Foundation.